Welcome back to Rocky Mountain Residential, a podcast from MCM Collective. I'm Kelly McBartlett.
My name is Anna Yost.
And today we have with us Russell Baker, who is a principal at Black Timber Builders. Russell, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Kelly. Good morning. My name is Russell Baker. I'm with Black Timber Builders. We're a land development and home building company here in northern Colorado.
So let's take it back to the beginning, Russell. Tell us where Black Timber Builders was founded, what the evolution in the story is.
Sure. So in Black Timber Builders as a construction company started in 2011 in Boulder. As it is today, we are a land development and home building company that came together in 2020 after a career in land on my side and then custom home building on my partner Kyle's side.
Okay. Awesome. Like a great team connection. Now, you guys do some traditional, but you really have started to lean in focusing on the passive design. Can you kind of tell me a little bit more about that? Tell us what passive design actually is.
Sure. So there's some great technical aspects of it. It's often confused with passive solar, which is a component of Passivehaus. But Passivehaus is a German standard that is all about the performance and indoor air quality and quality of the home. So it has a lot to do with insulation and health metrics inside the home that provide a comfortable, clean place to live. Way more so than many of the standards that we're used to here in the States.
Yeah, for sure. Now, did Black Timber Builders originate with passive, or did they start more as traditional?
So as a building company, we started as a traditional home builder. And when we partnered in 2020, we had been working on a development that we're sitting in here that's 13 lots in northern Colorado. And we really wanted to kind of challenge our team a bit. We've got a pretty remarkable team of carpenters that works with us that we knew could handle something that we haven't seen up here yet. And so we tackled this. It's a big part of our philosophy, kind of how we believe building should be. We've often seen an evolution of building go other directions, but we're pretty passionate about the energy efficiency, the air quality, and just the quality of the home construction in general.
So. Awesome.
So are there particular things that Northern Colorado offers that lend itself to passive design?
Sure. So in Northern Colorado, we have plenty of sun. And so that solar gain is something that's important in passive. So the home's orientation on the property is very important because in the wintertime, you'll see a big increase in solar gain. The home almost kind of absorbs that heat and energy and then holds that through the evening. So it's not uncommon to have a sub-zero day, but if it's sunny, your heat's not firing because it's able to capture that energy.
Yeah, I think we're so lucky up here to have so many days of sunshine that really benefits.
For sure.
That opportunity. Sure. What about barriers? Do you guys see any barriers to creating passive design and things like that for people?
Sure. So one of the elements that attracted us to passive was to bring this through not just our custom home construction, but also through some of our more attached housing, kind of mid-market construction. And there have been some barriers to that. So there's certainly a financial barrier. The cost of framing, the windows, the mechanical systems are a bit more expensive. But then beyond that there's a requirement on the carpentry framing side that is tough to find. It's a very detail-oriented frame to create the air barrier that's necessary to kind of produce, qualify and certify as a Passivehaus home. So we've been working through different elements of it to kind of bring it through all of our construction, but certainly the education of the market as to why they would want it. And then the kind of the subcontract base and the expense. So
you mentioned bringing it to market and getting consumers to understand that. What resources are you using to help people understand passive solar in a better way?
Certainly, we've seen the growth of passive, so people are hearing about it in more places. Northern Colorado is lucky. We've partnered with a group called EMU, that is an international group, but based here in Northern Colorado, and they do classes and certifications for contractors and builders to learn the principles of Passive House. So we've hosted many of their classes through many of our homes, and kind of walk through during construction and post construction, so they can see what the differences are and what it takes, and then just getting the word out, the education of it. People like it in theory, and then really what it kind of comes down to is, well, how does it live? And it has a distinct level of comfort that is not achieved in most production or code built homes, because of how insulated it is, and it's not drafty. It's warm throughout. So there's fun examples of that, where you can sit next to your windows on a -5-degree day and not feel the temperature differential. So it's definitely a comfort element, as well as an energy efficiency element.
Yeah, I feel like the education for clients on that would be really, really important, because it's not just your normal home build.
Well, yeah, 100%. And another thing that it brings up to my mind, you're talking about air quality a lot, and I'm sure that means that the house is built really tightly, so you're not getting a lot of air exchange. But do you have to bring in cold air to make enough oxygen in the home? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So it is one of those things that it's almost so tightly sealed that we have what's called an ERV that circulates air through the home, purifies it, and we use heat pumps, which are becoming more and more common. Electric heat pumps to bring in even when it's cold outside, bring in the warm air that's there, purify that, move it through the house. So even when we've been having some of these wildfires here recently, the indoor air quality in the homes is as good as ever. So it's pretty fun on that front.
So
That's
cool.
exactly where I was going with that. We have this air quality it's variable these days, and so people might really be attracted to that.
It's been, I'd say, from living in one, the biggest benefits are, especially in Colorado, where it's dry and you get dust and pollen, and it's the indoor air quality, and then the consistent temperature throughout the home and throughout the seasons has been
Incredible, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. This could be an ignorant question, but do you have a spot in the home where you can kind of check air quality or things like that? Is there any checks and balances on that, or what does that look like?
So, good question. Certainly, there's plenty of devices you can use to kind of measure that. We actually, as part of our partnership with EMU, we've inserted throughout our homes sensors kind of in the insulation, and kind of monitoring moisture content, which is a big part of Passive House. So it's not just air quality, but your overall quality of the health of the home. So we're monitoring over the years how these homes perform relative to code-built homes.
Yeah.
So
That's very cool. Yeah, I feel like people could go in really wanting that. The idea of passive sounds nice, but I always think checks and balances are always good for people.
yeah.
Shifting a little bit, how do you feel like the home building and construction, how do you guys define legacy homes? Kelly, how would you define legacy homes just in general from a real estate perspective?
Yeah, legacy, when we think about legacy, we typically are thinking about a home that can last your lifetime, and also be, potentially become part of your legacy that you pass down to other generations. Could be even just legacy for the community, right? But usually people are designing these homes to be multi-generational potentially. How do you guys look at it?
Now that you've hit on the two things that I would say we focus on. First is the asset, the home itself. How does the design speak to generations of living, and is it something that you pass down, or is it something that you just love and then hand off? And so certainly the asset itself. But then, Kyle and I are both living in Northern Colorado. We intend to live in Northern Colorado for a long time to come. So our legacy is, the imprint that we have on the community, and whatever that might be. We whether it's a great new subdivision that we develop, or a single home that somebody has for a lifetime. our focus is not just in the construction, but in the community aspects as well, for sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. How do you see, uh, construction and just real estate in northern Colorado evolving? You guys are really starting something pretty cool here with the first passive neighborhood with 13 lots. So how do you see that? Are you really hopeful that that's going to kind of take off for people, or dreaming here, I guess?
Exactly. We'd love to see it. So there, housing in Northern Colorado, as you guys are well aware, has some pretty um, diverse, a big spectrum, if you will. So you have this, these beautiful estate lots and passive homes that we're developing here, but then there's a lot of focus right now on just getting a home, and so we're trying to tackle both sides of that, if you will, where we get to kind of use some of our higher end stuff as a little bit of a playground and test out different, whether it be a native grass mix or a construction type, and try and transfer that down to everything we're building. And so Northern Colorado in general is progressive. And I wouldn't say cutting edge, but it's certainly adopting a lot of the principles and theories around energy efficiency, quality. But we also have a housing problem here. So there's a lot of just let's get housing built. Period. That we're trying to tackle too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So good to be mindful of both aspects of the market.
Right.
So, sometimes when buyers that I've worked with think about something like a passive home, or I know we're not using the word or associating with like a net neutral or something like that, but regardless, when they're thinking about these design principles, they think that might restrict their design of the home. Meaning, do I get the really awesome finishes that I want? Do I want the do I get the layout that I want at home? How do you see that
Sure.
working out in your?
So when we first made the decision to embark on this Passivehaus concept, the first thing I did, like anybody else, was Google, when the world's Passivehaus. My partner Kyle handles our vertical construction side, and when I looked at it, I saw a lot of very modern, modular-looking structures, and I said, that doesn't really fit our style and our market. And so the challenge was kind of put to our design team. How do we design a product that does look timeless, does look old world, if you will, but then also allows for those performance aspects to come through. And that's maybe a trade secret we'll keep, but it was not easy. Put it that way. So once you've identified your objective of energy efficient indoor air quality, where you want to land in that spectrum, then you start there, and then you can evolve into the finishes and all of the things that kind of come along with that. And we've seen people go crazy, and you can also keep it pretty simple, and the only real premium is in your windows and insulation. So there's a couple ways to tackle it for sure, but you can always add more for sure.
So we're not talking about you need a geodome home to do this. I mean, this house that we're in front of right now is a passive home.
It is. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't have to be what you see in other places, though that's easier to build. And so there's an expense that comes along with trying to keep with the architecture that we're passionate about, for sure.
A lot of our buyers that we've been seeing recently, there's been kind of a push for multi-generational living, whether that's, siblings or parents or things like that. How can you speak to that at all?
Sure. So this is a funny question, because we hear people talk about their forever home, right? You guys hear,
totally.
we're moving, it's our forever home. And I think our philosophy is more that the home's living with you, right? So the home is living with you in the sense that it needs to change over time. Whether you're building when you have two small kids, or whether you're aging in place. We have identified a couple different properties that we're working on. This being one of them, where you are able to do ALAs, or accessory living areas, and additional units, and that's been great, and it's been something that people have really embraced. So we're also seeing the same thing. But I really think it's an evolution of the home over time that really makes multi-generational living happen, where you can design something that can be adopted to go a variety of different directions when the time's right.
Down the line, yeah.
So that accessory dwelling unit or ALU, like you just said, that could be for a parent. It could be for a college kid that's returning home. It could be just friends that are visiting.
So
and they have their own area.
We just recently had a client that did exactly, wanted their kids to come home after college, believe it or not, and at least stay for a bit. And so did just that, built an ALU that they put an apartment in, and their daughter comes home from school and stays for the summer, and they love it.
Yeah. Well, I imagine the child loves it too. Just everyone gets a little more space from each other. I know when I have guests, it's nice just being able to spread out a little bit.
For sure.
So passive design, once was quite niche, and it still is. But we are seeing it grow in popularity a little bit. Like, what do you guys think about that? Like, what do you think is driving that transition? And do you think this is like nationwide? Do you think we're living, here in a bubble? Or tell me about that.
From my perspective, the European market and Asian markets have adopted passive long ago. They have millions of square feet of passive house construction. So we're not exactly, like I said, cutting edge, and we're not reinventing a wheel here. But in the U.S. and specifically in Colorado, we are seeing energy standards get more restrictive relative to air exchanges, indoor air circulation, and insulation, and those types of things. So we're getting closer and closer just by code, even to some of the requirements. So I think people are coming to understand that if it's a very pretty looking house, but it doesn't live well and it's not insulated well, the expense of that home is going to be much, much greater over time, and the enjoyment is not as much. So we're hopefully seeing a shift in our markets, even through some of the code changes, to more energy efficient and more comfortable kind of build.
Yeah.
And kind of in line with that, Russell, I mean, as weather patterns are changing, and like we were just talking about fires, do you think people are seeking this style of building out more because of the benefits it offers?
In Boulder, after the Marshall Fire, there were actually incentives to go this direction. And some of the utility providers were offering pretty healthy incentives to get to this. So we are seeing climate play a role. At the end of the day, it's going to be a psychological shift, I think, that has to happen for people to get excited about it, and really for us to see it embark. And that shift is probably being encouraged by some of the weather events we're having. But I think it's going to take a little bit more, for sure.
So we used to, when people would build passive in the past, at least in this area, it was typically always custom. They were very ideal driven. And now it seems like maybe that's shifting to a little bit more of, design it for us. Come in and you have the house ready for them. What are you seeing? Are you seeing leaning more towards the custom aspect, or more towards the, the spec, have it done for us, and we just get to buy it?
Yeah, well, obviously there is a process that is necessary when you go design your own home, and it's often multi-year.
Right.
It's often stressful. We've found that our market does well with a speculative build, and so we love the design process. Almost all of our team is in-house that builds it, so we find a lot of efficiencies in the fact that we're able to design and build and deliver and really kind of cater to that market. And then it also gives us the opportunity to say it's going to be passive whether you want it to be or not. And we get that chance to educate more people. Everybody that comes through it understands it and can feel it and can understand what the differences look like and feel like. So we've definitely gone that route, but we also see, there's Northern Colorado's a custom home market for sure, and we see a lot of that as well.
So I know you focus a bit on the development side of things, Russell. So this is 13 homes. That's not many. And if you'll probably finish this out before long. Do you have other things that you see in the future where you might be able to do similar things?
Sure. So we're developing across the region, and so we have attached housing developments for townhomes in Old Town. We have, a master plan community coming online next year that will have a huge variety of housing types, from rental to attached condo, duplex, townhome, and certainly single family. And then we also look for, kind of unique properties that we can spend kind of frankly years working on before we ever develop and ever build on. And we've acquired a few of those recently that we're excited about bringing another version of this to the market once we're ready. So yeah, yes is the answer. We definitely see a lot of runway in northern Colorado. Again, spreading our product type across different segments. But this is fun. This is a lot of fun.
Kind of wrapping up, but over the last 50 to 100 years, how people building homes, they tend to have certain looks. You spoke to it a little bit. Is like you guys are really able to kind of dial that in on what you like. How do you feel like that's gonna evolve, and how do you think that you're able to kind of do balance the timeless versus people's needs?
Certainly. The fun part about some of the old world styles is they're still relevant, and so you kind of have a template that we're pretty passionate about. A lot of that organic material, true hardwoods, some of the old world methods of timber work, mortise and tenon joinery, those sorts of things. So you get to start with a structure that has that aesthetic, and then start designing to the kind of the livability and the market today, and really using some of the modern elements that we are fortunate to have. So an ERV, or some of the building techniques with continuous insulation and other things that we use that allow us to make an old world home feel like a modern day home. So it's tricky for sure, but we're pretty passionate about it.
You found what works for you guys and what you really like, and obviously you've got clientele for it, so it's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So just to kind of leave people with a word, what would you want people to know about passive construction in northern Colorado, black timber?
I certainly would encourage people to go research it, understand it, investigate it. It's there. You mentioned there's certainly folks that have a kind of a passion towards the energy efficiency and the environment, but then I'd also kind of pivot that to just the comfort and understanding what is different about Passive House that allows it to live so much more comfortably than a typical code-built home. So, and then black timber is, we're a local company here that we're excited to be around for a little bit. Hopefully, again, have that legacy you talked about that we can enjoy and really establish over the course of our careers.
Yeah.
So that's
And you're very passionate about it, and I think that's what's really important, and that's what drives legacy a lot of the time. So
certainly.
thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yep. We'll see you next time. Thank you.